This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, my back being published now, my columns at the Colorado Springs Independent, all the other podcasts we've done, my photography website, all that other stuff you can find at hikingbob.com. And you can also sign up for my newsletter, which is free and comes out every weekend. And also you can help support this podcast at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob. Kevin, speaking of, and Kevin here, my co-host, is on board. Speaking of social media, have you signed up for a Threads account yet?
I have. I like as the kids say, I like the vibe of the app so far. It reminds me of the early days of Twitter before it got all toxic and weird. There's certain features that are missing or need to be updated or fixed, but it's not even a week old yet of an app, so I'm sure it'll soon get updated and get much better. I've always felt Instagram was my favorite social media place because it's generally been a lot more of a positive online space that is harder to find on Facebook and Twitter. And I know the irony because of that Meta owns Facebook and Facebook owns Instagram, or Meta owns it's all Facebook. But so I'm hoping that more positive climate from Instagram translates into Threads in the long run. How about you?
Well, before we get too much further, I didn't let you introduce yourself, but Kevin, tell us all about yourself, and then we'll talk a little more about that.
All right, so you can find me on social media right now on Facebook and Instagram. I've only gone to Threads on my personal account. You can find me at a temporarily changed website address, which is wildwestendorf.wordpress.com. Don't worry, the website is not down or anything. It's just slightly different now at wildwestendorf.wordpress.com.
You know, going back to the talk about the Thread, doesn't have a website or desktop app, and I would really like that, because a lot of stuff I want to post on there I just can't do from my phone, like some of my photos. I mean, even Instagram has now allows you to post stuff from its website, which is pretty cool. And I've been using that for a while to share some of my photos, but they're not on my phone and they're not on the cloud. They're on an array of hard drives here, and it's hard. Obviously I'd have to jump to a bazillion hoops to get them on the Thread. So that's one thing I'm missing from Threads, but hopefully it'll get there. That's one thing everybody's complaining about. The other thing everybody's complaining about is you have to have an Instagram account to get a Threads account, and it just follows your Instagram username over to Threads. I kind of wish it didn't do that. I wish you didn't have to have an Instagram account to have Threads, and I wish it let you pick a different username. But that part may not change. But having a desktop, either website or desktop app that you can use, would be a big advantage. But I agree, I was amazed by the time I got on there, which is about 2 days after it came out, how many big organizations, big names and media sites were already on there. So I agree with you. It doesn't appear to be yet, fingers crossed, as toxic as Twitter is, and hopefully that remains the same for a while.
I feel like I'm annoyed about the fact that you have to have an Instagram account too in order to have Threads. But I feel like they did that on purpose, so it would make it extremely easy for those corporations and larger groups to just easily migrate their followers over. It sure made it very, very easy for me, instead of trying to post on Instagram like, hey, everyone, come follow me on this other app, and just hope others are getting the app too. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm hearing people complain about it, because a lot of people they follow on Twitter, they want to follow on Threads, but they're not on Instagram, and they can't get on the Threads unless they're on Instagram. They don't want to be on Instagram. Blah, 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 blah. I'm sure that'll all get straightened out in the wash, as they say. So we'll see what happens. Kevin, week before last, we did a podcast about some issues with trail workers being harassed. And I don't want to go over the whole thing again. People should go back and listen to that podcast. But I do want to say that I've received a lot of positive and supportive feedback about that podcast, including some government officials have contacted me, and we're very, thankful that we put a spotlight on that and showed our support for the crews out there working. And two things I want to make clear, in case you didn't pick up on them if you listened to them, was number one, while this is a group of cyclists, this is not a group that represents all cyclists.
Exactly.
I want to make that very clear. I'm actually hearing from a lot of cyclists who are really unhappy about not the work that's going on, but because of they're really unhappy because of the harassment of the people doing work. And, on the other hand, I've also heard from hikers who are like, well, that figures cyclists. And then, no, let's, before we get out of control here, let's not complain about all cyclists. Most of them are really very supportive of this, the work that's being done. They appreciate the work that's being done. They understand why it's being done. So I want to make it clear, this is a random and rogue group of people who are doing this stuff. So before everybody goes out there and starts yelling at every cyclist they see. As a matter of fact, and the day we're recording this, I was up at Staunton State Park, and Kevin, I think you've been there. One of my favorite state parks. It's about a 2-hour drive from here. It takes a while to get there. So 4 hours of today was done driving out and back. But I saw a lot of cyclists out there, and every one of them was yielding the right of way. They would either stop and let me pass or make sure they had plenty of room. They were slowed down when they saw me. They told me how many were in their group. Really, really a great bunch of people that I saw cycling today, and they were really great. So let's not forget that while we're talking about this, the group of people doing this are a tiny little subset of the actual community, cycling community. So don't lose sight of that at all. So, but yeah, have you heard anything about that, Kevin? Have you heard from positive, negatives from people about the podcast? You heard anything at all?
No, but I did talk to a friend of mine about what's happening, and apparently he is a part of a certain Facebook group that I want to say a couple of weeks ago. Someone from that group made a post about, hey, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing this. And he said nearly unanimously, everyone fired back and was like, no, you're doing this wrong. Like, you guys are being real jerks. You're painting a negative perception of us.
So you're talking about the people who were harassing the trail workers. That they put the post. Okay. Yeah,
and someone from the harassing group made a post on this Facebook mountain biking group.
Okay.
And I don't want to say the name of the group, but it was nice to hear him explain to me how everyone fired back. I mean, he saw a couple comments that were like in agreement with the actions of that group, but nearly everyone was just trying to school the guy on here's why things are done a certain way. These trail projects are not meant to screw any group over. They're like just explaining the basics of what we talked about last week. And so it made me feel a lot better, especially because a lot of people in the Facebook group was like, dude, this is why everyone hates us cyclists and such. And I believe my friend said the post was eventually removed just because it garnered such a reaction.
Okay. Well, that's good. And I'll be the first to say that and Kevin, you've heard me say this a million times on this podcast. I don't believe any one group holds a moral high ground on behavior. Every group has got its bad actors. And, I've called out hikers who have misbehaved. And so I'm not a hiker just picking on the mountain biking community. And again, I'm not picking on all of them. Most of them are very great people and doing a lot of stuff, and they pay their taxes and they have the right to be out there just like everybody else does. But everybody, regardless of what your activity is out there, has to behave appropriately. And this kind of behavior is not appropriate. So I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, I don't want to dwell on it too long, but I just want to give a follow-up on it, that the feedback from that has been very positive, and maybe we'll see this issue die down and we'll get back to everybody out there trying to coexist and enjoy our trails, which would be a really cool thing to have happen. Out there. So Kevin, I've been doing a few hikes. It was a busy week last week. It was Independence Day, and I did do a very short, probably the shortest podcast I've ever done. They came in at like a whole 10 minutes. And I put that out on Independence Day, which was a day earlier than normal because it didn't make sense to do an Independence Day podcast on July 5th because that would just be dumb. So I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I got some good feedback on that too. And thanks everybody who listened. I wasn't going to do one, but it was a chance to just say a few things and speak from the heart a little bit. But it's been a busy week, but I've been getting out a lot. I actually went a week without any actual quote unquote hikes, almost a week. But what I've been doing in the meantime was out taking a lot of pictures. So a lot of that is kind of hiking, but just going out on a trail and looking for wildflowers, and usually with some friends of mine and taking pictures. And I don't include those as a hike. It's kind of cheap. And we made, it's one of those things, the last one we did, we were out for 4 hours because the wildflowers are so phenomenal and so abundant, but we maybe went 2 miles round trip.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But we're taking pictures, stopping, taking pictures, move, stop, move, stop, move, stop,
I know all about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kevin has been with me when that happens. So if some other hikers are like, oh, come on, another. When they see me whip out the camera, everybody's kind of eyes roll and they sigh and they look at their watches. And so that's why I go with my photographer friends, and we go out with the purpose we're going to take pictures. So we're not going to cover a lot of territory, but we're going to get a bunch of phenomenal pictures, which I have. So if you follow me on my Facebook page, you know that I put a lot of pictures on there. I'm putting them on Instagram, maybe a day, one or two a day. But it's been a great season. So one of the places I went to was Cane Ranch Open Space, and I haven't talked about that much, but it's east of Fountain, way down on Squirrel Creek Road. Boy, you got to want it too. It's out there. And strip of land that the county acquired some years ago and finally developed. And it has just one trail, basically a long trail, and then a loop at the end. You kind of go back the same way you went in. Pretty remote, pretty barren. And I wrote a column about it, so that the barren nature of it kind of belies its hidden beauty. And I will tell you, if you look at the pictures in the column, and I linked to it when I posted the hike I did there over the weekend, and you look at the pictures I shot in the column and how brown everything is. Then you look at the pictures I posted from this past weekend and how green everything is, and grass up to your hips and stuff like that. The wildflowers are insane out there. It's really a fun hike. I found these, they call a prairie lubber grasshop. They are about 2 inches across. They're huge, kind of like a reddish, greenish, orangish color. Pretty neat. I actually got one that was sitting in a flower, taking its time, and I got a whole bunch of pictures of it. I made a great picture. I posted that on Facebook, and I haven't done it on Instagram. Might be by the time you hear this, I might have it on there. So in any case, if you haven't visited there, I suggest you do. Now, a couple of things I want to suggest. If you go out there, the trail has not been as maintained as well as it should. When I was out there, it was mowed and cleared up until it crosses a dry creek bed. And then you cross this creek bed, and which apparently has not been dry, very much lately because of all the rain. You can see where it actually had some flooding damage through there. The other part of it is barely able to follow, and whatever kind of weeds are growing up in there will just scratch your legs up. So if you go out there, I highly suggest long pants. They don't have to be very heavy, just long pants and some bug spray. There are biting flies out there. A couple of them nailed me. So bring bug spray, bring long pants. But the views are tremendous. And what's out there, Kevin, is really interesting, are the cholla cactus. And those are ones that they grow like in a bush, and they have long, spindly arms, narrow, spindly arms with these beautiful red flowers. They're all over the place down there. And they're right on the trail, and they're really cool to see. You don't see them in many places. Basically, I think that Squirrel Creek Road is as far north as I've ever seen them. And you'll see them going all the way into Pueblo. Chico Basin Ranch, which is a little further south and slightly east or west of there, has a lot of the cholla cactus, but they're fun to see, and they're just blowing up with flowers. So I use one as a foreground with this sweeping plains behind it. Then behind it, you see Pikes Peak, and there was these beautiful clouds, and this guy made a great picture. So if you go out there, check it out. One thing I do recommend, I'm gonna definitely support this. There are a lot of signs that are saying to stay on the trail. There are rattlesnakes out there, and the grass is so tall and so thick that it's not like when you're walking along a prairie with low grass. You hope you could keep your eye out. You could see a rattlesnake. You're not going to see anything in that stuff, whether it be a rattlesnake or whatever. So definitely stay on that trail. Be careful. There are rattlesnakes out there. We also saw a herd of antelope out there. I think we saw about a dozen. It was, when I say we, me and Cole saw about a dozen. And of course, there are prairie dogs out there that chirp and makes Cole go crazy. Then he sees the antelope and he goes crazy. Kept him on a leash. Keep your dog on a leash, especially with the rattlesnakes out there. I don't know how many are out there, but apparently they're out there. They have signs posted. But Kevin, have you ever been out to Cane Ranch?
No, but I did hear you say it was off of Squirrel Creek Road.
Yeah.
And I drive by that for one of my markets, and I've never actually like realized that's where the open space is, but Google it and it doesn't show up. So I think it's not updated yet.
Yeah, it doesn't show, well, and it doesn't show up on Cotrex yet. I don't think the county submitted it to Cotrex. The way I found to get there is if you go to the county's website, elpasoco.com, click on parks, you can find it, and they have direction. Basically, it is about 4 miles east of Link Road.
Okay.
Which is on the southeast part of you guys, obviously I don't think you guys go out that far unless you go all the way out to Yoder or Ellicott or something like that on Squirrel Creek Road.
Oh no, that's rare.
Yeah.
Not that far.
And if anybody's familiar with where the city landfill is on Squirrel Creek Road, which is east of Link Road, it's a little bit past there, probably maybe a mile at the most. I don't even think it's that far past there. Nice parking lot with a bathroom facility and plenty of adequate parking. But really a neat place. I want to catch a nice sunset there. I did catch one there a couple years ago, and it was not a couple years ago, last year sometime. Got a pretty nice sunset there, but I'd like to catch another one. But there's a lot of flowers. So anyway, the whole hike from the parking lot up the trail, do the loop, come back on the trail was just a little under. They say on the sign 4 miles. It was like 3.86.
Okay.
So if you're rounding, which they do, it's 4 miles, but it is less than that. Bikes are allowed on the trail. Horses are allowed on the trail. They do have space there for a couple of trailers for horses, not a whole lot, not a tremendous amount of parking, but I think they recognize it's out there a ways. It's a pretty desolate area, but really a fun hike. A lot of interesting wildflowers and stuff. I think if you go out there late in the afternoon with some clouds in the sky, you'll probably be treated to a pretty nice late afternoon sky and maybe even a good sunset. Like all the other parks, basically open day, dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk when it's open. They have an electronic gate there that closes automatically. But you can get out if you're still in, but you can't get in. So all that stuff is there. But if you haven't been out there yet, I highly recommend it. Really pretty place.
And I'm looking it up now, and yeah, for some reason I thought I remembered wrong, but I thought you were saying King Ranch Road. I realized it's Cane Ranch Road. Yeah.
Or Cane Ranch Open Space.
Or yeah.
Yeah, on Squirrel Creek Road. I just think of, I'm going to be dating myself here, but I think of when I hear Cane, I think of Sheriff Cane. I think of Gary Cooper, and I think of High Noon because that was the character's name, Sheriff Cane.
Oh, okay.
It is one of my favorite all-time movies, so that's why I think about stuff like that. So another hike I did on Monday, we went up to Staunton State Park up in Bailey, Pine Junction kind of area, up Highway 285. It takes a long time to get there. One of my favorite parks. Just a beautiful space with great views. And we did a hike on the Mason Creek Trail, which you go by a creek and there's some nice little tumbling waterfalls kind of a thing, cascades. And there's a bit of an uphill, and then there's along this cliff edge that makes up the north side of the park. There's a series of overlooks. We did 2 of them because they're real close. One was a little longer and we were kind of running late. I've been up there before, just not on this trip. The views up there are just tremendous. Just great views. So that was a nice hike, about a little under 9 miles, maybe 8.5 miles round trip. So a long hike, a long day. Cole is sitting next to me out like a light. He's lucky he gets to sleep. I don't, but he's out cold. I think he slept most of the way home. I've written a lot of columns about Staunton State Park. There's a Lion's Head Trail out there. We had some good views of Lion's Head. The trail going up there is closed for a couple more weeks, I think. because there's raptors that nest up there. So part of that is closed. I recommend going later in the summer or early fall and doing a hike up Lion's Head. From the parking lot, it is about a 13-mile round trip, but they opened a new parking lot that's more in the center of the park, and I talked about that in a column last fall, and that gets you to a lot of those things without as long of a hike. Still going to be a long hike. Still probably going to be like 8 miles, or 8 or 9 miles round trip to go to Lion's Head, but they made it a little easier to access some of those places that aren't such a long way to go. Beautiful state park. They have camping there, but it's only tent camping, so no RVs or anything. So they have a lot of tent camping sites. Nice facilities there. But they basically have a wheelchair with tracks on it to use for people who have mobility issues. And they have several of those that people can reserve and go out there and enjoy some of the trails. It's an old ranch, so a lot of the trails are wide and pretty easy to use. So I mean, you can't do Lion's Head with one of those. It's 12 miles round trip. I don't know how long the battery lasts in one of those things, probably not that long, but you can enjoy a lot of the trails there pretty easily with this tracked wheelchair kind of device. So it's pretty cool place to go. So if people haven't been there, I highly recommend that too. And you've been there, right, Kevin? I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah, I've been there once, and it's been a few years, and I've been wanting to make a trip out there again because I do remember it being a gorgeous place.
Yeah, I think you absolutely should. It is a really, really pretty place. I'm pretty sure you would enjoy it. So I think you'd like it out there, and go visit it. And I think everybody who's here should probably take the time to go and check out Staunton State Park. It was really, really, really nice to stay out there. It is a long drive out there. You have to go out Highway 24 to Woodland Park, go up Highway 67 to Deckers. Take 128, I think, all the way to 285, then go north on 285 a couple miles till you turn off to go to the park. And the park's about 2 miles down the road. It's a long day. It is about 2 hours driving without traffic back and forth. So, you have to pretty much plan on being out there all day, and which is what we did. So anybody who hasn't been out there yet, highly recommend going out there and checking out. Just a stunningly, stunningly beautiful park. Staunton has got lakes, and it's got creeks, and it's got cascades. It's got an old mill site that's there. The old cabins are there from when it was a ranch. Really, really cool place. So if you ever get a chance to go out there, check it out. I think you'll greatly enjoy it. Kevin, I know you've been super busy at work. You got any hikes you want to do? We kind of mentioned off the air that you think things are going to slow down. You're going to free up some time. You got any hikes that you're just in the quiver, you're waiting to pull out when it's a little bit of work?
Yes, especially now that the forecast is showing the next week being actually summer, which I'm really, really excited about. Because I'm just so sick of this rain, and I'm sick of it. And I know
everything looks great. Everything looks great, but damn it, it was hard to get anything done when it was raining all the time.
Yeah. And I mentioned off air that my car needs a few repairs. So as soon as I get that done, I'm really gonna get back on the road to do some really big hikes. I want to get back up to Rocky Mountain National Park. I want to go back to the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, and I will be off for a week, middle of this month, starting the 19th, if I remember right. So I'm just gonna try to take advantage of that time. I'm gonna be off for 8 days, and
nice.
So I think I'm definitely gonna do some camping, kind of going further away. I had other plans for that week off, and those plans changed. So now I'm just like, I'm just gonna have a staycation and just kind of revisit some favorite trails that I haven't done in a while, like Bison Peak is on my list, and definitely seek out a few new trails. There's a couple old trails that I realized over time that I could hike those old trails and then loop them around to other trails and kind of see more stuff. So I want to plan those out. But yeah, it's just been so hectic with car problems and work being so crazy the last month and a half almost, that I just haven't really sat down and be like, all right, which hike am I going to do to make up for all this lost time? Because when I did have time, it was just raining the entire time. So yeah.
Good. I should mention too that about 10 days after you hear this, I'll be starting my trip to Teddy Roosevelt National Park up in North Dakota. I'll be spending 2 nights in Rapid City, South Dakota. I lived there for a while back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I've been back there 3 times since then. And so it's basically an 8-hour drive from here to Rapid City. So I'm gonna go there, spend the night. I'm not gonna leave at like dark 30 in the morning because it's summer, so the sun's up late. So I'll probably get there around dinner time and then probably go to Mount Rushmore, which is about a 30-minute drive away, get some nighttime pictures there, spend the whole day there the next day, and then leave the next morning, go up to Teddy Roosevelt, which is about a 4-hour drive, basically just straight north from Rapid City, and then spend a few days there. And I'm really looking forward to that trip. And it looks like we're going to have fantastic weather. I know it's still a ways out, and my 72-hour rule hasn't kicked in yet, but right now the weather looks nice. It's actually going to be fairly warm and stuff. I've set up the Jeep for some camping inside the Jeep, sleeping in the Jeep. Got some foam rubber from a place down the street that has a lot of upholstery products, and they were really great. I told them I wanted to do, and I wanted, a 3 or 4 inch thick piece of foam rubber and how big I needed it and what I was doing with it. I said, well, they brought out a couple different thicknesses and firmness and said, lay on this one, lay on this one, lay on this one. So they had me try them out, and they cut one to size for me, and I bought that from them. And so, it's shaping up. I'll probably spend this week and early next week getting the Jeep ready and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what I'm doing about it. Well, I have podcasts that are scheduled to be recorded over the next 2 weeks, but I may actually do one from there because I'll be staying in a hotel except for one night, maybe 2 nights I'll be out in the field. And that's mostly for some Milky Way photography, which will be kicking in then. But I will probably be doing that kind of, I may do I don't know yet. We'll just have to wait and see. Depends on whether I want to lug all the recording equipment with me or not. And I'm not sure what I want to do with that. And basically how good I don't need good internet to record it because I can just record it on my portable recorder, but I do need good internet to upload it. So we'll just have to see how that works out. But it's not Mars for crying out loud. It's still the good old USA. Internet should be pretty decent in any kind of town. So one would hope anyway. Kevin, a couple of things coming up. The Starlight Spectacular with the Trails to Open Space Coalition is coming up in August. I included a link in my newsletter about where to sign up for that. And if you're interested in doing that, and it's always a lot of fun. I signed up, and it's a lot of fun being out there. The route goes through the Garden of the Gods, which is completely closed to vehicle traffic, and you have the whole the route through there. You have the whole park to yourself. You don't have to interfere with any traffic, which used to be an issue when the route used to go through Colorado Springs. And of course, as the city got bigger and busier, that became a little more problematic, plus outrageously expensive for police protection and traffic control and this, that, and everything else. So the new route is shorter by quite a ways, but it is a lot of fun, and it's a great community thing. So if you get a chance, do that. Also, Cheyenne Mountain State Park, Cheyenne Mountain Run, which is the foot race, and it's basically a marathon up to the top of Cheyenne Mountain and back on the Dixon Trail and associated trails. That is kicking off in October. That's going to occur, and tickets are already available, or I should say your registration is already available to sign up for that. If you want to come out and watch, you just need a state parks pass to get in the state park to come and watch, but you can come in and watch. And I'll probably be volunteering there, and I typically stand at a trail intersection and just point and go that way, which is probably the limit of my ability to do anything with the race. But anyway, all that is coming up. And Kevin, I don't know that I have anything else. Pretty short podcast today, I think. But you have anything any parting words you want to give us here?
Let's see. Man, I'm trying to think of something funny or more elegant to say, but no, I'm drawing a blank. I'm tired, man.
I could tell some really bad dad jokes if you want.
I just heard a great joke today.
Lay it on me.
What kind of milk does a mythical cow drink?
What kind of milk does a mythical cow drink? I don't know.
Legendary.
Oh my God.
You can edit it out if you want.
I just hope you're proud of that.
What do you call a pickle who is confident?
What do you call what?
A pickle who is confident.
A pickle who is confident. I don't know what.
A big dill.
Jeez. Oh my. Folks, we have hit rock bottom here. We are telling dad jokes and they're not even good dad jokes. Well, here's one for you. I'm going to end on this and we're going to go away before people start killing us.
Yeah.
Why couldn't a green pepper practice archery?
Why couldn't a green pepper practice archery? I had no idea.
Because he didn't have an arrow. And with that, folks, before you send me bad letters, I think we'll say goodbye. So, Kevin, thanks for being here. And we will have somebody on next week. Maybe somebody with better jokes. Maybe we should hire a comedian to come on here and tell better jokes.
Yeah.
In any case, Kevin, thanks for being here.
It's always great to be here.
All right, Kevin, thanks a lot. And everybody, thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast, even with the bad jokes. Talk to you next time.
Before you go, did you know you can rate and review our Studio 809 podcasts? That will help us because our egos really need to have thousands and thousands of listeners. But that helps our wonderful sponsors reach more ears too. And we do love our sponsors. So just go to Studio 809 or any individual 809 podcast in your iTunes or podcast app and click on ratings and reviews. Thanks.